This is actually a lot more people than I thought there would be at the end of a con. So thank you. So how many people are just here because they're waiting on a ride? You can be honest, I won't be hurt. I'm just curious. One, okay. That's like, I'm just bored. I'm just flicking through TikTok, watching the world burn. Yes. Oh, button guy's here. You're like, it's like, do you ever actually take those off or you just wash it like that? Don't ask about it. It's like, wash it? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, thank you all for coming. God, I'm starting early, but that's okay. It's Sunday, right? Yeah, so I'm Kyle. I'm a voice actor. Sometimes I get paid to let the voices out of my head, and sometimes I don't. And they have two kinds of padded rooms. One's for mental health purposes, and the other's just a voice acting booth. And, fortunately, I don't have to wear a straitjacket in the one where I get paid. And strangely, I guess acting could be viewed as a form of therapy, right? Because it helps us escape the harsh, terrible world that we live in with all the awful, traumatic, dramatic, all sorts of stuff going on in there. And so, thank goodness we have entertainment and art and music and all the magical stuff to help us cope and just say, you know what? I'll take a deep breath and I'm going to be okay. And I have been fortunate enough to be in the entertainment business for 23 years. And when I was probably 8 or 9 years old, I fell in love with Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny and all that stuff. Those classic characters don't get a lot of screen time nowadays, outside of maybe Space Jam or some of the little kid stuff. But when I was little, that stuff would air, and I would ask my dad, it's like, people do voices? And it's like, yeah, all these is one guy. And I'm like, ooh, that kind of planted a seed. Now, I'm the kind of guy who is actually very introverted and actually quite shy. But working in radio and working in voiceover actually helped crack through that. So I have no actual anxiety addressing a crowd, coming to cons, being around thousands of people. I could totally do that. I'm not so sure I could if I weren't involved in this industry. And growing up, I struggled, with school plays, having to memorize dialogue. But in voiceover, your script's always in front of you. And it doesn't matter what you look like. It's very freeing. I can be 54 years old, but voice people half my age or younger. And it's like, okay, that's cool. And growing up wanting to do that, particularly for animated stuff. That's what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I also wanted to be a DJ on the radio. So basically, I wanted to entertain people without them looking at me, without being on stage. Now, since I've gotten the confidence through voiceover and working in broadcast radio for years, and then, I did radio first, and then heard about auditions at what was then Funimation and now Crunchyroll for Dragon Ball Z in 2000, and have since been working in voiceover, mostly for anime and video games since then. So it's been a really interesting journey watching the popularity wax and wane with anime. It never went away. It was always there. It was always there for the hardcore fans, but now it's like bigger than ever. And even the big tentpole franchises like Dragon Ball, One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, all this stuff is still front and center with a lot of fans, and they're getting new fans because the old fans that were teenagers in the 2000s are now having families and they're introducing them, or even their older siblings or parents even. And now cons are like a really cool hodgepodge of families. A lot of them are even cosplaying together, which is great. I've seen the cons change. In the early 2000s and all that, it was basically the parents didn't like it, they didn't understand it, they didn't like it, they thought, oh, it's all animated adult stuff. It's like, Have you seen Pokemon? It's just like live action. There's genres for everything. There's an audience for every type of animated thing, not just anime, but I've even seen people go, "Who's Annie Mae? Who is she?" Like, no. I mean, I'm so old that the word anime didn't exist. It was not, in the 90s, they called it Japanimation, not politically correct. But growing up in the 70s, watching things like Speed Racer and stuff, cartoons were just cartoons. You know, now there's like a line. Fans will say, "No, it's anime, it's not cartoons." It's like, well, guess what? They're both animated. What does anime mean? Japanese cartoons. But, I mean, the art form is so wonderful. And I knew watching things like Speed Racer, Battle of the Planets, Star Blazers, stuff in the 70s, especially after Star Wars came out and changed the landscape for sci-fi for sure, and pop culture, that I could sense that the animated stuff from Japan was more detailed, the animation was better, the characterizations were deeper, the stories were more complex than your average stuff. So it's kind of ironic that I just wanted to do, "Hey everybody," you know, just silly, goofy cartoon stuff, because it's just fun. But I also learned that it's like, I don't want to just do one kind of voice acting. I want to do kind of a little bit of everything. And I've gotten to do that so far. I've got a couple of commercials here and there through the years. I've done some cartoon stuff through the years, a little tiny bit. I want to do that. That's my main focus. I want to do cartoon stuff. I want to be Bugs Bunny, but Eric Bauza is Bugs Bunny, so I can't be Bugs Bunny. But boy, I have dreams, man. If I could be Batman or something, now that Kevin Conroy's no longer here, rest in peace, you know, or if I could do something in Star Wars, doesn't have to be big. I could die happy if I'm just a stormtrooper that just gets killed and goes, "Wah!" You know, "Hey, that's me. That's me." I just like, you know, I get a huge kick out of saying, yeah, I've heard my voice on TV, on broadcast, on streaming, on DVD, on all forms of media, and it's a great feeling. It's very validating. If you're an actor or you want to be an actor, that's kind of what you're craving, that satisfaction for your soul, the creative endeavors, right? And I've been able to do that and learn all these skills through the years, learn how important it is to be an actor. It's not about doing the, "Hey, everybody," you know, cartoons, all these wacky impressions. That's not what voice acting is. Voice acting, underscore the word acting. That's the emphasis, because voice acting is acting. It's just not on stage, not on camera. It's just a different form. Some might argue that it's the purest form of acting, because you have to channel all the physicality instead of hitting your mark on stage or doing things with your eye line and expressions on your face. And even physical things like punching, kicking, getting hit, all that stuff is physical, but respecting the distance to the mic and not doing all this, not moving around like you would in a real fight, for example, like, you know. But when you're fighting for voiceover, there's this magic sweet spot, right? It's roughly a hand away from the mic, and you can't pivot your head too much one way or the other. And you have to do that, like, Hadouken! You know, do all that sort of stuff. And then you're learning the importance of mic technique, the importance of improvisation, the ability to think on your feet, the importance of cold reading, the importance of seeing that material for the first time, commit to a performance and do it, but also be flexible. So when the director says, "We need to speed this up, slow it down, stretch it, change it," blah, 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 then you can do that efficiently. You take direction well. My job as the actor is to not direct myself, not make changes editorially or any of that stuff, especially since scripts are approved by the studios. If they make a change, it's not just because they want to. It's actually a technical reason. When you watch anime, if you watch it subtitled and like just for giggles, watch a dub but put the subtitles on, it rarely matches. And the reason is because the dialogue that we do for the dubs has to fit the mouth flaps. And sometimes things take longer or shorter to say in Japanese than they do in English. So we have to come up with like, all right, take out the thesaurus. Let's find another way to say this that will still honor the original translation and do all that. So if they make wild changes and change names of attack moves or this, that, and the other, that stuff is not necessarily called upon by the English director, but by the client, by the studio. When people say, oh, the 4Kids dub of One Piece is edited, it's terrible. Well, guess what? The studios in Japan approved that. Toei said, we want our show on children's TV. What compromise do we have to make? Oh, there's broadcast standards. You know, the government can fine TV stations or networks for broadcasting things that violate those rules, such as blood, violence, sexuality, profanity, and all that, which is, of course, in those shows. And you could argue that One Piece and Dragon Ball aren't technically kid shows, but they wanted to reach a big audience. How do you do that? You get it on children's programming, Saturday morning programming block. So those edits were approved by the Japanese studios. It's not Funimation being evil or 4Kids going, ha ha ha, I can do what I want. I'm just going to change names left and right, and let's change the smoke and the cigarettes to a lollipop and all that stuff. I had no idea Dragon Ball Z was as bloody as it was until we started dubbing it uncut. It's like, wow, the Photoshop people had their work cut out for them. Whew, that's a bloody show. That is not for little kids. Now, what they aired on TV and what they sold on VHS, remember that back in the day, kids? Censored, heavily censored VHS tapes with 3 episodes, and then DVDs came out in the late 90s. 3 episodes, and it was still #1 on the sales charts, even as edited as it was. So the hardcore fans were saying, the dub's terrible, and they edited, blah, blah, blah. It's like, meanwhile, look at the sales figures. Look at, you guys didn't see, probably, most likely, did not see the uncut version until you're a little bit older, right? And then, nowadays Cartoon Network shows stuff way bloodier and over the top and more adult-oriented on Adult Swim and things like that. So completely different world now in a streaming environment and in a place where initially Crunchyroll used to be the biggest pirate site in the planet and is now the leading legit site. Who'd have thunk? Who'd have thunk you'd have that? So, yeah, stuff is still pirated, but not to the degree it was, because the internet is a thing, the streaming model is a thing, and now a lot of shows and content come out, if not the same day, within a week or two sometimes. Like Bleach, if you're watching 1,000 Year Blood War, when they put new episodes up, the dub is up only 3 weeks later than the Japanese one. You wouldn't get that in the early 2000s. You'd have to wait years. Naruto came out in Japan like at least 3, 4, 5 years before the dub was on Cartoon Network. So when I used to go to cons, I'd see what's hot with the fans and go, wow, maybe one of these days there'll be an English version that will reach a bigger mainstream audience. And sure enough, that's the case. So the window between stuff coming out in Japanese and then English is shortening. And that's awesome. It's like the best time right now to be a fan. You're getting your content officially subtitled pretty much the day it comes out. And if you want to watch the content in English, it's going to come out pretty quick. So as many legit complaints as people might have about the state of the industry, it's pretty darn awesome to be a fan right now. You're getting the shows, whether they're reboots or sequels or spin-offs or this, that, and the other. It's pretty cool. And then I am so blessed to get to work in an industry that is tied to these artistic endeavors in multimedia form. And I get to travel the country, sometimes the world, and I get to share my passion for the craft and hear the stories from the fans and interact with you guys and learn the difference that this media and this art form is making in your lives. And I'm just like, man, this is great. I can make a living doing something I love. And I think that's the goal for everybody. It's not to get rich. It's not to be famous. You need to do something in your life that feeds your soul, that makes you happy, and say to yourself, well, I just sling burgers at McDonald's. It's like, that's a temporary thing. One day, this is just a stepping stone. You're going to move up in the world, and you'll be able to save your money to take those acting classes or those art classes or start dedicating more times towards hobbies. And then maybe one day your hobby can be your job, your career. And it doesn't feel like work anymore because you're having fun and you love what you're doing, no matter what it is. And if you want to go to school and be a doctor or a lawyer and all that, that's great. That's your passion. And for those in the arts who just feel as strongly about music, about creating animation, comics, acting, voiceover, whatnot, they can start to take baby steps towards it. We all want it now. We all want it fast. We all want it cheap and free and all that stuff. But taking the shortcuts is not ever going to pay off. I used to kind of turn my nose up at people in the industry that would say that. It's like, it's easy for you to say gatekeeper. It's like, you have money. I don't have any money now. It's like, yeah, but if you save money, regardless of your income level, if you put just a little bit aside, in no time, suddenly you have money to take a class, to buy equipment, to maybe put aside towards moving where the work is. And all that takes time. You can't do it in a year. You probably can't even do it in 5 years. But hey, you start young, and people can. I started in my mid-30s, I think. I moved to LA in my late 30s, and I've been there ever since. And can I guarantee you that what you want to do for a living, it will actually work out the way you want it to? No, I can't guarantee that at all. You might fall flat on your face, but you will learn something. You will grow because of that something. And I encourage people to always at least try, because trying and having it not work out is way different than wondering what if and having regret. You don't want to grow old one day and sit in that nursing home one day going, you know what, I did this for a living and I made a 6-figure income and I was successful, but you know what, I wasn't happy. And you've heard people like Jim Carrey or Robin Williams or all these people who are super successful and they were rich and they all their dreams came true. And then they come out and tell you the hard facts. It's like, you know what, you get everything you want, you're going to find that still doesn't give you happiness. So those cliches that you always hear about life and positive attitudes, they're cliches for a reason, because there's a little hint of truth in them. So I think it's good to kind of keep that in mind, put that in your heart, put it in the back of your mind, and remember those things. So when you say to yourself, hey, when I go to a con and I go to a panel and watch an actor or an artist, a musician or whatever talk about their craft and it inspires me, remember that moment and look back and say, all right, okay, what am I prepared to do? Do I have the fortitude and the drive and determination and passion to do whatever it takes to get there? Something within reason, not stepping on other people's, on the backs of others and being rude and all that horrible stuff and get ahead just by being awful to other people. No, I don't do that. Be good to your fellow humans. We all have struggles. We all have something internal going on. We all have trauma. We all have things that we all have to work through. So if you're treated poorly by someone, try not to take it too personally, because they could be having a bad day. You don't know what they're going through. Is that an excuse for their behavior? No. It is not a free hall pass for them to treat you horribly, nor is it an excuse for you to treat them horribly so you can get from point A to point B and all that. So I think it's good to try and stay grounded. I try to stay, I started 23 years ago in this career, and I still have a lot of goals. I have done so much, and I'm so proud, and I'm so grateful to the universe and the powers that be and the forces that made it possible for me to go to cons and make a living doing these things, work on powerful shows that connect with fans on so many levels. And I get to do that. I get to say, man, I'm living my dream, literally. Not how many people get to say they do that? So if there's any gospel I want to spread, I don't have an agenda. It's not political or anything. It's more about personal motivation, and just say, hey, if you feel like you have this creative urge in you, you got to work towards it. I was so patient. I had to have the patience of Job to say, I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to audition and audition and audition and audition. And eventually, I'm going to get cast in something. It may not be what I originally thought I was going to get cast in, but I want to do this, whether it's commercials or audio dramas. I've done audio books before. I've done, that's not necessarily that fun, honestly. The most fun kind of project, video games, anime for sure, because the anime, the footage is done already. I get to see what the fans will get to see when I'm dubbing it. But the most fun I've ever had as a voice actor is doing cartoon stuff, because I get to be in the room with all the actors at the same time. And we're recording the audio, and the animation is not done yet. So we don't have to fit mouth flaps. There's no lip sync involved. We have the freedom to kind of play off each other, kind of like a radio play. That's the most fun. But again, you don't get to see the final product like you do with anime. And in video games, I don't get to play it early. I don't get to see that footage before the fans do. When I'm recording Street Fighter, all I have is a script and the Japanese audio as a reference. It's like, match the timing of this. The answer lies in the heart of battle. So in Japanese, you have to say that in 3 seconds. I can't take 4 seconds. I shouldn't take 2 seconds either. I need to say it in the pacing that will fit that. And some of the budgets on video games will reanimate the mouth flaps to English. How cool is that? But whenever you play a game that originally comes from Japan and the English doesn't match, that's not because we didn't try. It's because we didn't have that stuff during the session. We didn't have the resources to, all the materials to watch that. So like the OVA for Street Fighter 4 that came with the limited edition, that movie, the lip sync looks really off because it wasn't done. And those day and date anime shows that come out in English and Japanese at pretty much the same time, when we're dubbing those, the animation is not even necessarily finished on the Japanese side. We'll see animatics, still frames like comic book panels almost with stick figures to indicate basic action. It's like he's running and they'll show like an arrow and a stick figure going this way. And it'll be edited to the point that the final shot is going to be in the final version. It's like, I have no idea what this stick figure is going to say. He's speaking Japanese, but even the Japanese mouth isn't even animated yet. So that's an interesting challenge, but I love it. I love to be able to say, all right, what's the challenge today? Am I going to create a character from the ground up? Or am I going to revisit something I did 6 months ago? And they'll say, well, how do you know what voice to do if you haven't done it in a long time? They have reference audio. They have little MP3 clips from the previous session. They'll play it for me. I'll have the headphones on. They'll say, Pete and repeat. The answer lies in the heart of battle. The answer lies in the heart of battle. Okay, there he is. There I am. I'm in the Ryu zone. Or the Gohan zone. Fight you? No, I want to kill you. It's like, sweet. Yes. Iconic lines, iconic characters, moments that just like I nerd out when I get to record for them, and I nerd out even more once they're out there for the fans to see, and then get that feedback from you guys when I come to panels and get to talk about it. You get to share your stories, and it's just like, it's a win-win. And the voiceover community is so supportive. I'm sure that you guys probably went through the autograph section and met some of the other actors and creators and saw how wonderful they are and supportive they are of each other. It's just a great community, and we're all so grateful to you guys for making it happen. And we want to see you succeed too. If you have a creative endeavor or any sort of goal in life, we're rooting for you. But you got to work for it. It doesn't come cheap, free, easy, and all that. You got to put in the work. And you know what? It'll be worth it in the end because you'll feel more accomplished. It feels better instead of having someone just hand it to you. Anyone who's probably older than you, maybe someone in your family will tell you, it's like, if I just gave everything to you, you wouldn't appreciate it. You might in the moment, but how happy, it goes back to personal happiness and how creative, how fulfilled is your soul if you can say, well, someone just gave me this job, or they gave me this, or they hired me, like, okay. But how much better do you feel if you say, you know what, I took acting classes or animation or art classes or trained as a musician or whatever for years, and I got multiple coaches and techniques, and I went through all of this uphill struggle because I wanted to do this for a living. I think that would feel way better to say, even if it didn't work out the way you wanted it to. You could say, hey man, I invested my time, my energy, blood, sweat, and tears into something I was passionate about. And I could say, hey, you know what? It was worth it. I learned something. I learned something about myself, what I'm willing to put up with, what I'm willing to go through, and all that. So hopefully that will stay with you after we call it a day. But that's basically kind of what my journey has been and what I've learned through doing many panels for people who are always interested in just like, well, hey, what's it like to do voiceover? How can I do it? I want to be a voiceactor.com. That's a great website. You can visit it right now and bookmark it. I want to be a voiceactor.com. And it basically tells you what I'm about to tell you, only in way better detail. Become an actor first and foremost. Train, hone, become the best actor you can, not person who does voices. And then you can worry about getting a demo done. And then maybe after that, you can worry about investing in equipment and having a fancy recording space and all that stuff. Don't worry about getting auditions when you're starting out. Don't worry about, where can I get paid to do this? Can I go to Fiverr.com and all that stuff? Well, yeah, technically you could. But, you know, this is a very competitive field. You know, you've got literally thousands, if not tens of thousands, because it's the internet and people can record from their home around the world. So literally all these projects can be like, yeah, technically you could live here in Sacramento and get cast on a AAA game that's recorded in LA, who also has talent in London or Japan or whatnot. That's technically possible. I don't know how often that will happen, but yeah, and it depends on what your goals are. If you say, I just want to do voiceover, well, any major city has a lot of commercials opportunities, TV and radio. And when I say TV, I don't mean that you're necessarily on camera. They still have voiceover where the voice is heard, but they'll show other actors doing things on commercials. That's the most lucrative form and most common form of voice work there is, commercials. It's not as cool as anime and cartoons and video games, but it's far more lucrative in the sense that it's more plentiful. You stand to make residuals. You can get money and healthcare, you know, all that stuff. If you're in the SAG-AFTRA union, and SAG-AFTRA, if that's going, where have I heard that before? Well, this past year, they were striking, and because of social media, you out there were kind of informed on a whole new level about the threat of AI and how that affects the arts, how that affects our jobs. And even how it can affect you, even you have nothing to do with the industry. You know that AI, phone scammers, can clone you or your family friend's voice, and they can call you and act like, hey man, I'm in jail, I need you to wire me $500. And then you do it and you hang up, and then your friend comes over and then goes, what? I didn't call you, I'm right here. Or something. It's like, that really happens. Look it up on TikTok. You can hear horror stories of people. So it's like AI, that's just actors being whiny and all that. It's like, no, dude, AI can affect you. And any artist in Artist Alley can tell you about the threat of AI to their art form. And musicians, it's funny on TikTok to watch, listen to Metallica sing an Elvis tune and all that. Yeah, okay, on novelty level, absolutely, it's funny. But at a core level, think if that's you, it's like, wait a minute, I didn't say or sing that. I didn't draw that, yet that's my style. That sounds like me, that looks like me. And then people could totally make revenge videos and audios that could totally get you in trouble or you lose your job. So we've had the actor stuff not just talk about pay and better work conditions for everybody, but yeah, the whole AI thing is, and studios are starting to do that. You've probably read on social media about different video game studios who are just kind of proud of it. It's like, we're gladly going to be using AI. And it's like, okay, the technology is brilliant, but it's the usage you should have an issue with. And that's what a lot of us do. We're worried. And I half jokingly say, hey, I'm going to be going to anime cons and signing autographs as I'm the last human voice of Gohan. Because, who's going to want an autograph from a computer? And what sort of organic, from the soul sort of performance are you going to get from a machine? It may sound like the actor or actress or the performer that you think and and you admire, but is it going to have that same feeling, or is it going to sound soulless and empty the way that initial CG stuff looked? Like the uncanny valley in the eyes and stuff. That still happens, just not as great because the graphics are better now. It's still not 100% there. And that's true with audio. So you can hear, it's like, you can go on any website, there's text-to-speech, and you can have us say the most abhorrent, awful, cancel culture thing ever. And you think, that's funny. It's like, yeah, till it happens to you. That's a real threat. That's not cool. Again, technology, that's pretty awesome that I could text it and do all that. Yeah, that's cool. But from an ethical standpoint, a lot of concerns to think about. It affects so many people on so many levels, and not just in the creative industry, any sort of job. If you're going to have a machine do the job of 50 people, that's 50 people that are now out of work. What are they going to do for a living? Crazy. I don't think anyone will go watch an AI Taylor Swift concert. I think they're going to want the real singer to make the content and all that. So I've been blabbing for half an hour. If you guys have questions, feel free to come up to the mic. I'll feel free to address any questions about what I've talked about, or if you have any things I haven't touched on, because this is totally free form. Go for it, sir.
Hello? There we go.
Hi.
This is very on topic. It's very voice acting oriented.
Oh, okay.
So I was wondering what your advice would be to actually getting into the industry, like starting to make connections with people and stuff would be.
Start networking. I think using social media is a huge thing. Get involved in Facebook groups, Discord groups. Start Googling for voiceover communities, because inevitably you're going to meet someone who's at your level or slightly above who can help kind of hold your hand through the next process and the next step, because someone knows someone who might know someone who knows someone who has audition opportunities, or might know a casting director. And if you're training as an actor and you're working with a voiceover coach or a studio that has voiceover classes for a dozen people or less at a time, they probably have connections too. And there's voiceover classes that can be taught by talent agents. It's kind of like they're trolling. They're looking for talent. It's like, where can I find my next new sign? I want to sign some new talent. Where can I get them from? It almost sounds like, okay, you're paying to play, but hey, it's an investment. You're going to learn how to act, and you're going to get some face time with someone who might have the power to either sign you for representation, or someone who can cast you, or someone who can certainly at least give you the information that you're looking for.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. Who's next? Hi.
Hey, how are you doing?
Excellent.
I was just wondering, this is probably a difficult question considering you've been working in the industry for 23 years, right?
23, yeah.
What are some names that stand out to you as people who you thought were great to work with and to, whether they were directing or acting or whatever?
Ones through the years that kind of instantly come to mind are the directors, because in anime and video games, it's just one actor at a time. So I can think of people like Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, Tony Oliver, Kirk Thornton. I've had a blast working with Patrick Seitz over the years with Fire Emblem games and all sorts of stuff, but talent that I totally admire, and they're great acting. Ryan Colt Levy, from Chainsaw Man, he's amazing, and he's so positive and inspirational. I just love seeing that energy coming off of it, and he's just genuinely amazing. Steve Bloom is my hero. He opened doors for me when I first moved to LA from Dallas back in 2005. He introduced me to his agent, who is now my agent. And he helped toss my audition, my demo into the consideration at the studio called Studiopolis. And we've been dubbing Naruto, Boruto, Bleach for years. So networking has been like an important thing. I was already in the industry because of Dragon Ball, so I met Steve behind the scenes, like at a green room at a con. But most people are going to meet them in some sort of public setting, like at a panel or at their booth or whatnot. But so many people that I admire. Again, I have mentioned Eric Bauza, who voices a lot of the Looney Tunes characters now. Mad amount of respect for that guy. I mean, super talented, and he seems super sweet. Rob Paulson, Maurice LaMarche, Tara Strong. There's so many people that have been doing this sometimes longer than I've been alive. Frank Welker. Golly, he's been Freddy and Scooby-Doo since 69. I was born in 69. Woo! So many people in so many different aspects of the industries. Writers, directors, actors, and some do a little bit of everything.
All right, well, that's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again, Mr. Hebert.
Hi.
This is my third time seeing you at a convention.
Well, hello again.
All right, my question for you is, okay, Gohan is my favorite character from the Dragon Ball series. Yeah, an unpopular opinion to some apparently. And I would like to, and one thing that makes Gohan really stick out is his fashion sense. Gets a new outfit almost every saga. And I'd like to know which of the outfits that Gohan has worn throughout the series is your favorite.
My favorite actually appeared in Superhero. He kind of had this kind of long shirt that wasn't long sleeve and not short sleeve either. Kind of fell right there, kind of open neck sort of thing. And he had the glasses on. He was I like that look. The one that I definitely did not like was the tracksuit.
I don't think sporty is his style.
Not so much. But I absolutely love Great Saiyaman's outfit.
Oh, yes. How
Absolutely.
can we forget?
For years, people said, I hate Great Saiyaman. It's like, you're alone. I had a blast. I love him. What's your favorite outfit of his?
Well, let's see. I have at least one favorite outfit for each of his, each age.
Sure.
For little kid Gohan, it's the outfit, the little Chinese outfit he wore in the very beginning of the Saiyan saga.
Yeah.
During for Teen Gohan, it would be the Chinese outfit he wore before the big fight against Cell in the Cell saga.
Yeah.
For adult Gohan, that's a good one. I'm gonna have to say the outfit he wore when he started college, the one with the black vest.
Right, and then the Beast form's kind of a callback to the Cell games. That outfit,
Yeah.
I like the color scheme and everything on that too.
Yeah, actually, I have another outfit I like for adult Gohan when he started his suit in GT when he started wearing glasses.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Hebert. Great to
You're
see
welcome.
you again.
Thank you. You too. I'm not a mister, by the way. I know I'm 54. Just call me Kyle. I like to pretend I'm young.
Hello.
Hi.
So I told you at your table a few days ago, but Bagum is my comfort character. And so I was just wondering, what's it like voicing someone who, he's not necessarily the most popular character in the show, but every time someone talks about him, like in the fan base, people automatically are like, oh my God, I love that character.
Yeah.
And he has such a dedicated but small fan base. So what is it like to voice a character like that?
That is a whole level of satisfying I didn't anticipate either, because every actor wants to be the main character, and that's just not realistic. But you know what? From a fan perspective, rarely is the main character necessarily, by a majority, the favorite character. I have lost count of so many people who love Kiba in Naruto, for example. He's a side character. In the grand scheme of things, doesn't get a lot of screen time. But yeah, he's a great character. Aizen in Bleach, he's the main villain. He still doesn't get all that much screen time. He's mentioned more than he's seen throughout the entirety of that show. But his presence and everything, it's there.
Yeah.
And it's like, this great... I have a feeling that I voice a lot of underdogs, people that are super successful, that they're not necessarily the first thing you think of when you think of fill in the blank thing. Kamina in Gurren Lagann, he's not there throughout the whole series, but he sure does make an impact. Fat Gum, my hero, he makes a huge impact, literally not being punny because he's big, but I mean, he's affected, and his positivity, he's helped enable people feeling confident to cosplay. They've told me their stories about, I'm self-conscious because, I suffer with my weight and all that, but seeing a character who's powerful and positive and all that gave me confidence to finally cosplay. And I said, I love that. That's great. I love things like that. So yeah, side characters, they may not have the same amount of screen time or the number of lines and all that, but when you see the artist put out their own versions of things or mashups or just the love from fans just in general for those side characters, it's so satisfying. It's wonderful. It really is.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Kyle. So you mentioned that you got involved in voice acting around in your 30s, like in the much earlier times. And I'm just curious about this aspect of the industry. There has been lately going around a whole lot about where current modern voice actors have to deal with like ageism now, and that they're trying to cast voice actors based off their age and such. And there's a lot going around where nothing's really changed just because you're older. So I guess my question is, how do you remain relevant to the voice acting industry when, ageism kind of plays a role in some aspect and such?
Well, age can be an interesting thing in that in voiceover, again, it's not what you're seeing because that doesn't factor in at all. It's the voice print. The voice, how you come across vocally. You can play different age ranges. Nowadays with social media, and this is like hopefully not a reason people get cast, but if they look at your number of Twitter followers and you get cast based on that, it's like, that's not fair. That's not cool. There's so many people so talented and they've been putting in the work all these years, and because they only have like 100 followers, they're not going to get the same chance. Really, it should be based on the acting. I almost wish that when auditions are done, that the beginning or the slate, the beginning of the audition, don't have the actor identify themselves. Let the person listening judge based purely on the action or the acting, and when they go, that was great, and then they look up and say, oh, that was. Okay, that's Steve Bloom. That's awesome. And so they can not just, or stunt cast. It's like, we need a VTuber or a YouTuber. Why? Because they're popular and they're going to get us free marketing and all that. That's awful. I don't like that at all. But yeah, I'm sure ageism plays into it. And there's I've seen interviews with ladies in the business who are older and going, oh, I'm losing roles to the younger people and all that. That's true for every gender, I think. It's interesting because now is the time where we're finally getting diversity casting and all forms and all representation, and that's fantastic and that's awesome. But I'm hoping that at the same time, those people are being judged by their acting skills and not just a check mark. Going, are they Asian? Let's sign them up. I was like, really? They can't just be Asian. This is a profession. We need to listen and judge them on the merit of their skills. It's like, okay, we need to cast appropriately based on gender or age or race or whatever. I mean, yeah, sometimes they will want to actually cast a preteen. But more times than not in voiceover, they'll cast an adult because there are child labor laws and it's very restrictive. Children can only record so many hours in a day because they're expected to be at school. and all that. So unless they're homeschooled, maybe there's some sort of arrangement that can be made. So that's why it's so rare that you could watch something like Full Metal Alchemist that actually did have Al be an actual kid instead of a woman in her 20s or 30s sounding like a kid. Yeah.
I highly appreciate giving your input on this subject and just many other aspects of the industry, Kyle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. So I just want to say thank you for the work that you do.
Thank
you
you.
voiced so many of my favorite anime and video game characters, like Soda and Kaito from Danganronpa.
Thank you.
Dribble from WarioWare. I'm the only two people in this room who play WarioWare. It's great.
Three
people.
All right.
Cool.
See, underdogs. What was I
Okay.
talking about? What was I saying?
Underdogs. Good one. But
See what I did
my question is Kamina, because Gurren Lagann is one of the shows that changed my life forever.
Yeah.
And Kamina was essentially influenced me and also like unintentionally caused my friends to look up to me. Because a little story before my question. One of my friends who was going through a rough time last year,
Yeah.
this year they wanted to improve, and they based some of their ideology based off of me because I really like watching a lot of stuff and
Yeah.
like talking about that stuff. And they based their like one of their resolutions. They based them on like what I do, and I'm just like, I am the real life communist. Holy shit.
That's cool.
But my question is about that. Is that how did you feel when how did you feel after you voiced Kamina? How did you feel when all these people were like, oh, Kamina was such an inspiration to me, like both in the show and out of the show?
It's usually a situation where this is what I point to when people say, what's the coolest thing about your job? And I'll say, when the people share with me at the cons the stories about how those characters or performances or shows or games or media have impacted their life. That's something that's hard to think of when I'm in the studio just being directed and I'm just focusing on the technical process of things. And then it's out there in the world. And then if I have time and there's enough hours in the day and I can actually watch the final product, which there isn't a lot of time, and most of the actors you'll find have not seen their own stuff. I try to see a lot of stuff, but Dragon Ball Z is probably the only thing that I've seen most of. I have not seen anything beyond a handful of episodes of Naruto or Bleach. Gurren Lagann, I've seen like 10 episodes maybe. But so many fans said that I didn't want to keep going after episode 8 or whatever. It's like, yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm glad you did. It's like, well, yeah, obviously, because when you hear the impact of what that whole show means, and it's almost, I'm almost tempted to say, it's like, all right, well, his sacrifice, it did. You probably shouldn't have it any other way.
I do think that my favorite moment of the whole show is when Simone is fighting like the anti-spiral, and he sees the vision of Kamina, and Kamina's like, bro, you've grown, and I'm just like, here come the tears.
Right, yeah, manly tears. And I was told when I was cast that they said, yeah, don't get too attached to the character. Like, why? I was like, I already knew going in there was a fan favorite show. He was a fan favorite character, so I instantly thought, oh, he must be the main character. It's like, no, he's not the main character. It might look that way. Like,
Oh no.
okay.
But yeah, this is. I also wanted to show you because I got another Dragon Ball figure.
Oh, what you got?
I got this old pervert.
Roshi, huh?
Yeah.
Very nice.
Thank you. And
Thank
just
you.
who the hell do you think we are?
Who the hell do you think we are?
Take care, man.
Thank you. Row, find the power. Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for voicing Ryu in Street Fighter. I really love what you've done with the character. I know it's kind of like hard to match the Japanese timing like you've talked about, but you did a great job.
Thank you so much.
My question is just really simple and quick. What's your favorite kind of move to spam with Ryu? Everyone has one. What's yours?
If I can do Hadoken, and I forget how to do it every time, I love doing that. But I usually just get pwned within 30 seconds when
It's
I play.
how it is. Everyone starts there.
I'm
Thanks
a
so much.
button masher, but I am particularly thankful that there's a new configuration with Street Fighter 6 in particular that
Yeah.
makes it easier for casual gamers to actually stand half a chance.
Big wins for accessibility. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello again.
Hi.
Good to see you. I felt honored, and I just looked through your Wikipedia page, and I forget how much you've actually been in. Like that, I'm both familiar and unfamiliar with. It's incredible.
Thank you.
Like wide range of characters you've voiced. Obviously, you have a wide range that you can like kind of get into somehow. It's just really incredible and admirable. And the advice you gave earlier, spot on. Thank you
great.
for that.
Thank you.
My question is, of the upcoming like shows or I guess the like Dragon Ball Super, I know is probably will come back. Are there any moments from the show or just upcoming shows in general you'd want to voice in or?
Well, like I
Stand out.
said, if I ever have any opportunities to voice any more superheroes, that would be great.
Gohan. Great Saiyaman, Gohan.
Gohan
Like,
is one. And why wasn't Great Saiyaman in Superhero? The movie's called Superhero.
Yeah, he
We were
could've
kinda
made-
gypped, right? We
at
were
least-
ripped off.
At least at the end, they could have snuck him in somehow,
That's true. That's true. Again, I kind of just put gratitude out into the universe. If I have the audition opportunity for a character, I'm grateful for that because they at least considered me for that. I did read for Ichigo. But I'm glad I didn't get it because Johnny Young Bosch, I can't imagine anyone else other than him doing it. I think
Right.
the casting decisions are on the spot. I mean, they're made for a good reason. These people are good at what they do.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have it any other way. So.
I just, while looking over your Wikipedia, I forget, even that my friend I came with mentioned you were on the spectrum, like he and I are, and the autism spectrum.
Yes.
And that just blows me away, and it kind of motivates me to actually pursue the creative stuff I want to,
Good.
just because you're a good example of, despite having setbacks or stuff that holds you back or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't make it.
Right.
So
yeah, and I learned this.
that alone-
I learned this within the past 10 years about being high functioning. But see, nowadays, they're able to catch it, you guys, at a much earlier age, and the tests are done, and you're able to have more resources from the get-go.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting that, and I learned my dad is on the spectrum too. It's like, oh, that explains a lot. And that's genetic. It is genetic, so. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I don't know anyone in my family anyway that has autism, so maybe it is.
We learn and communicate differently, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
It's a good thing.
We have the tism, so.
We have the tism. I like that. Very
Anyway,
nice.
Thank you again. Really inspirational.
Thank you.
With what you do, and just keep being you. And I hope Gohan is back in Super at some point.
I hope so,
look
too.
forward to hearing you as him. So.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I'm glad you're here for my first con for this location too, and it's only my first or second con really, majorly, so it's good to be
Nice.
here, and I'm glad you're here.
Cool.
I got something signed and everything. So Gohan is my favorite character, and I've been watching Dragon Ball since early '90s, and it was nice because I was almost the same age as him. I grew up, and he was battling through the Saiyan saga, and I'm like, oh, I could almost do that. I'm that age.
Yeah.
And so my question is a simple one. With Beast Gohan being so mysterious and so such an awesome new form, just your opinion on, do you think it's related to Super Saiyan, potential unleashed from the Elder Kai, or maybe both, or just something new altogether for him unlocked through his rage?
I kind of
Just your
feel
opinion
like
on it.
where it's coming from is something Akira Toriyama said many years ago, is that Gohan is the strongest in that universe.
Yeah.
And I feel like things have just come full circle.
Exactly.
He just hasn't, his potential's been kind of squandered. He's just been sitting on the sidelines all these
Exactly.
years. We haven't had an opportunity to see that and even
Yeah.
think that, wait a minute, maybe Gohan is the one. He's the Neo in the Matrix or something, He's like, I think Beast Mode is, personally, I think that's beyond any other Super Saiyan level. I think he's already surpassed his dad.
Yeah.
And I really hope they explore that and not just one and done with superhero.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah,
I really
so-
think it's interesting. Yeah, because it's like we've seen it so many times. It's like Saiyan Saga. He gets mad. He gets busted out of the pod, and then obviously Super Saiyan 2, and he just Ultimate Gohan. He keeps coming back and keeps coming back. So
Yeah.
it's
I
amazing.
also think
yeah.
it's funny that Piccolo and Pan basically had to gaslight him to do it.
It's like, come on, hurry up.
Psychological abuse, you basically, it's like, hey, Gohan, we know you're smart and you're a better dad and husband than Goku ever was, but you know what else you can do? You can fight.
Yeah, you can also possibly be the best one ever, but you got to fight.
You gotta fight, gotta train.
Well, thank
Don't
you
just
so
study
much.
those Super Saiyan ants.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, I personally think it might be like his rage tapping into his potential and Super Saiyan at the same time. But
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what more happens. And thanks
Yeah.
for everything you do with the character. You've been doing great. And
Thank
I
you.
love it. Thank you.
Thank you.